Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Shekhar Iyer. Today I have with me Sri Shekhar Iyer and we are going to talk about a few things around India. One is of course the Congress presidential elections, the candidacies, the relative candidates, their strengths and weaknesses and so on and so forth. And the other topic we're going to talk about is the lawlessness that is growing in Telangana while KCR is jet setting around the country trying to create a Bharat or BJP Mukt Bharat. I don't know how real this is, so we'll find out from Shekhar Iyer ji on the reality of something like this. Shekhar ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel and happy Ganesha Chaturthi to you, sir.
Happy Ganesha Chaturthi, sir. Thank you very much for having me again.
And Shekhar ji, I'm hearing that Shashi Tharoor is throwing his hat in for the president of the Congress party. The way I see it, sir, is if you look at the 2014 rhetoric that Modi was putting out, there were a lot of things, Congress Mukt Bharat, but he was singularly going after Shashi Tharoor, saying that he has a 50 crore girlfriend. The way I see it, sir, regardless of which one wins, it's a win-win for Modi. What do you think?
Well, already we are seeing there is a lot of controversy since the announcement of the schedule of the elections. Now, today we have had leaders like Manish Tiwari, even Karthik Chidambaram, saying that, where are the electoral rolls? Where are the list of voters who will choose the Congress president? And besides, normally the Congress president election is held at the end of, the state elections. After the elections have been done to the Pradesh Congress committees, I mean, first the district committees, rather from the primary committee, district committee, then the state election committees. Then it comes to the All India Congress committee. But we are told that the electoral roll is ready and any contestant who wants to check it out will have to go to the state PCC office and then check out the names, because every person who wants to contest the election has to be backed by 10 delegates, which means he must know that who are actually the certified delegates who can actually propose his or her name for the election. So already we are seeing that there is a lot of confusion about these electoral rolls. And I think above all, the bigger question is, what is this election all about? Do the Gandhis really want a contest? Or do they want to create a situation where finally one of the members of the Gandhi family get elected and they can show, look, the family got elected after all, through a contest. So that picture is not clear, but already the way the questions are being asked, I have my doubt, Shri Irji, this election, where is it going to head? And we will not know the picture until September 24th, when the nominations will open and we'll see who are actually in the ring. Because I believe there are already efforts still on to somehow persuade Rahul Gandhi, finally accept the leadership of the Congress, though he has been, very firmly saying that he doesn't want to get bogged down in this. And in the meantime, we are still in the dark about why is Sonia opposed to Priyanka Gandhi becoming the Congress president if Rahul is not interested. Now, there are several questions, Shreya Yadji, which is not clear. And, the whole pressure seems to be, they have to get through this motion because they cannot hope to get a further extension from the Election Commission, about the conduct of election. So the elections will have to take place on October the 17th, and on 19th, they have to declare the result. Now, before that, if what we are seeing is, complete disarray in terms of even arrangement. They announced a schedule that is September 24th, the nominations will open and elections will be held on October the 17th. But I think it's clear because according to the Congress constitution, there has to be a procedure in which all these delegates are finally elected. And the other problem is, if you look back, the last elections were held in 2000 when Jitendra Prasada had challenged Sonia Gandhi and he had lost. After that, no election has taken place. If you go little backward in time, you will say in 1997 you had Sitaram Kesari, fighting an election in which Sharad Pawar and Rajesh Pilot were candidates, and Sitaram Kesari won. And before that, we haven't heard any elections. Of course, in 1992, there was an election to the Congress Working Committee after series of the other elections. But again, there some delegates got huge number of votes, particularly R.K. Devan emerged as the a person who was elected to the working committee with a huge number of votes, which upset other Congress working committee members. And also questions were raised as to whether the system of election should be allowed in the Congress. So the then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao got all these delegates, I mean, his CWC winners to resign and went in for a nominated CWC. So we have seen such kind of farcical exercise, and even the present one looks like rather a namke vaste type rather than a genuine election. Shri Iyer ji.
Shekharji, I apologize. I had a power outage and power is back now, and so is internet. So let's take on the next question that we were talking about, which is Telangana. What is happening in Telangana politics? Shekharji, I am wondering whether the state unit of BJP in Telangana and the center were in lockstep or not. And I'll tell you exactly what happened. There's this Muslim comedian who wanted to perform in Hyderabad, and one of the MLAs, 𝗤𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙥, said that he will not allow that to happen. Then there was a war of words. And then what happened was that 1,000 police defended this fellow's performance. And somewhere during that, this guy was arrested. Who? MLA 𝗤𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙥. He is arrested, and the state BJP president is protesting his arrest in Nizamabad, which is a different city. In the meantime, the BJP suspends 𝗤𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙥, and he gets bail, comes out. Police goes back and puts some old cases, draws up FIRs, and then arrests him again. Now, my question is, was the BJP state president unaware that the center had suspended him, and what was the reason for suspending him?
Well, Shri Iyer, we have seen after the Nupur Sharma episode, the central BJP, particularly as directed by the Prime Minister, has taken a strong view of leaders who make very provocative statements, because it took a hell lot of an effort for the Modi government to repair the damage caused to the India's relations, particularly with the Gulf countries. And the manner in which the whole thing got orchestrated by anti-Modi detractors as well as anti-India detractors abroad. And that led to a situation where a lot of explanation had to be done by the Ministry of External Affairs, including the External Affairs Minister himself. We had to fly down to some of the capitals there and speak to the leaders. Since then, I think a line has been drawn that no matter how important that person is, whether it is Raja, or whether it is anybody who gets into a area which they see as a red line, making comments about particularly the founder of Islam, I think that is not something that is being accepted by the central BJP. So I think in this case too, that principle has been applied, because they feel that right now, in terms of being in the government, they cannot afford an impression to go out again that this kind of thing has got the sanction of the central BJP or the BJP leadership or the Prime Minister himself. So you are seeing wherever somebody is crossing the line, no, even if there are reasons that can be cited by the concerned person to justify what he is saying or what she is saying. I think the line is clear from the central BJP. You will have to fight this kind of thing in a little more indirect way rather than making direct comments. I think that part is very clear because of the huge fallout in terms of relationships between India and countries, and which are at a sensitive level, because it has taken quite an effort for the Modi government, particularly the Prime Minister himself, to bring these relationships with Muslim countries to a point where some of the countries like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, they are no blind supporters of Pakistan on the international fora and other key subjects. I think that's the consideration which is at work, and that's the consideration that is acting as a pressure on the BJP not to back leaders like Raja Singh.
So, what do these countries say when atrocities are committed against the majority?
Well, the problem is what we are seeing is, those countries are not bothered about atrocities being committed, on whoever in India. But somehow they are, they go very hyper when it comes to, commentaries being made on Islam. because that is something that affects the strategic relationship with India. See, actually, the ruling governments in these countries have very good equations with the prime minister, and they have made some strategic investment. Whether it is their strategic oil reserves are to be located here, or their huge capital investments on some projects, those are there. But then they have a domestic audience, and they have some domestic problems which they fear could actually increase in magnitude if they are seen to be remaining silent when such things come. And there is a circle, I would say, or a syndicate of sorts, which ensures that these comments here and there, or some localized events, as we saw in the case of Nupur Sharma, they get blown up on the social media and becomes huge, and the fallout from that is far more than what we would get in looking at things being who was right or who was wrong in a particular case involving Raja Singh.
Okay, well, if they don't want to say something about what is happening in India, about somebody, who happens to be a majority being killed or whatever, but they want to comment about a minority, I think that seems like it is not calling it fair on both sides. Why can't the Ministry of External Affairs say, you don't say anything when there's a majority killing? What makes you think that, what gives you the license and right to comment about minority killings? See, you can say there is a general law and order problem in India, and that is a state issue. That's the state subject. The states need to deal with it, and the center is dealing with the states to make sure that the states deal with it right, whatever be the perfect or imperfect relationship there. What I'm trying to say, I'll tell you why I'm kind of not getting away from this, Shekhar ji. India offers an apology to Qatar. Less than a week, they wanted to import food grains from India. What did India say at that point? At least they could have said, take this thing off of your website. Did they say that?
Shri, foreign relations are not conducted in that kind of manner. We have our interests. They have our interests. See, our problem is oil. And you would have noticed with Ukraine, we have had to do a lot of balancing between buying the Russian oil or buying the Arabian oil or the UAE oil. So what we have done is, the way we have even kept silent on the Ukraine war, which has also been criticized by many countries, saying why India, a country that believes in the rule of law, is keeping quiet on the Ukraine war. But then every country acts in its interest. And now this is a particular issue where it involves something on the domestic side, but has a forbearing because of this syndicates and those anti-India forces that are operating. So our interest is we continue to get the best bargain on oil, and which we have. By showing up, that we are ready to clinch a deal in Russia, we have managed to get some good discounts on oil purchases from the Gulf countries. So there is a lot of balancing going on there. When that kind of thing is going on, because of the Ukraine war and the importance of our oil purchases, given our budget constraints, I think the what is paramount is our economic interest, rather than trying to appear fair on an issue that we are talking about in Telangana or involving Nupur Sharma. So that is the reason why at least the ruling party in India should not be seen as provoking something which could come in the way of dealing with these trade relations. That's pure commerce which is coming in the way of this, and no country for that matter doesn't go by what is fair or what is unfair. I mean, this is something in every country. If you take it, its foreign policy pronouncements, its foreign policy dealings are on the basis of its national interest, because our national interest requires we get a good deal on oil, whether it's Russian oil or whether the oil from Arabia. So I think when the government is focused on that, repeatedly Prime Minister has appealed to his party men down the line not to make that kind of provocative statements, even if the local politics requires. And the line has been drawn. Well, you can take up local issues in your own way, which involves probably rivalries between two groups in a particular area. But when it comes to the religion per se, let us avoid attacking the founder of any religion or co-faith of any religion, because that, I think, the BJP has made it clear to its party leaders. That is the reason. If party leaders continue to do it, I think they have to face the door. I think this is the line that has been drawn by the Prime Minister, for a simple reason: it involves national interest, it involves economic interests of the country, and at the same time, BJ is not willing to appear at a national stage or at an international stage, it is actually backing such a hard statements or statements that are seen as extremely provocative. I think this is the line. But sometimes you find leaders at the ground level. Right now in Karnataka, there is a lot of things which is happening about the holding Ganapati Puja in Idgah Maidan. In the case of Bengaluru, we saw the Supreme Court ordering a status quo. Whereas in Hubballi, we have seen that the Karnataka High Court has given permission, and the Ganesha idol was installed there, and the puja had been done today. So these are very, very extremely sensitive times, and with elections going to take place in Telangana next year, of course late next year and early next year in Karnataka, the BJP has been asked to do a kind of a balancing, I would say, if not fine balancing, where the direction to the leaders is to avoid saying anything directly provocative. Do your local politics in your best way, but see that those you don't say anything which is used against us at an international level, and we are put into a lot of firefighting at the international level.
Let's get back to Hyderabad. Some interesting things that are happening there. There was an interview in a Telugu channel where a speaker, a guest, said that there is a certain borough inside Old City, and that if the police wants to arrest anyone in that borough, they need the permission of the MLA of that constituency, elected MLA of constituency, to arrest him. Otherwise, they say that their life is not safe. Shekharji, I'll also tell you, 6 months ago, I think it was the month of Ramadan, there was a corporator of another borough. Actually, I lived in that borough for many, many years. And this guy is asking a policeman who was asked to go and investigate something happening in a particular place. He's basically giving him expletives and said, don't you know, you XYZ, that you are not supposed to come here during this time? I mean, corporators are taking law into their own hands. Why doesn't our Ministry of External Affairs say that when you guys have elevated reactions in your air-conditioned offices in Middle East, this is what is the situation on the ground. Understand that also. Please, because I'll tell you why, sir. 1.4 billion people are not going to stay patient.
No, but then, that is the time they will have to vote for a government that can crack down on these groups in Hyderabad. See, this is a challenge at the domestic level. A challenge that can only happen when the voters of Telangana decide. Because ever since you have had a Congress government that followed by a Telangana Rashtra Samiti government, these governments have been dependent on those forces to continue their stay in power. And we all know for a fact that Chandrasekhar Rao, the Chief Minister of Telangana, has had one of the best deals with Saudi Owaisi, with the MIM leaders. Even if, whether there has been secret understanding on some seats during elections, or, trying to help each other in managing the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, there has been a kind of a secret understanding, sometimes even open understanding. Because the idea is that they should take care of the resources of these corporation command and then share the spoils of it. That is why whenever there is a huge raid, you can see the condition of Hyderabad. You find cars floating. This has happened last year. This could happen again this year. I mean, all that goes to show that people of Hyderabad have been left with no choice but vote again and again same MIM corporators in the heart of that old Hyderabad, and the TRS people elsewhere. And that was challenged for the first time by the BJP. The BJP did not overturn the cart, but definitely ensured it got a good jerk. Now, the coming elections are going to be a direct fight between TRS and the Congress. That is the reason why KCR...
BJP, sir.
TRS and the BJP, and that is the reason why KCR doesn't have a strategy to the final election in Telangana. So he is going around. Today he met Nitish Kumar in Bihar as if he can help him there. See, the whole idea is he feels that somehow he can manage BJP, but his worry is what happens if Modi returns to power in 2024. So he has already started on an exercise, being very overconfident that the Telangana is again for his asking in the coming year 2023. and then all that he has to do is to work for an opposition mobilization. We have seen all this opposition mobilization is meaningless. Nitish Kumar, even if he wins all the 40 Lok Sabha seats from Bihar, and if the KCR in an extreme situation wins all the 17 seats, where are they going to form the alternative government, the next government in 2024? But these leaders are living in their own paradise, I must say. And KCR in particular, he is going around to show himself as secular leaders, quote unquote. I mean, a leader who is very pro-minority, and who feels that secular agenda can be revived across the country, little realizing that voters across India have become more conscious, particularly on these issues where systematically parties and government have ignored, the grounds reality and as well as the feelings of a majority of the voters. So that consciousness is gaining strength. It is not losing strength. That is the reason why BJP is still managing to succeed despite all these forces coming together. That is the singular reason why Nitish Kumar has dumped BJP again and joined hands with the casteist groups, in the hope that the casteist and those so-called secular, which I think are very communal forces, can come together and upset the BJP. Because the larger battle, Shri Iyer ji, is about this. And Telangana is going to be very, very important in this battle. And BJP, I'm sure, is not going to make it easy for KCR. And KCR next fears, since that when he sees ED raids in Bengal and he sees ED raids in Bihar, he feels his time will come sometime next year. Because we all know the numerous complaints and allegations involving TRS ministers, even the first family of Telangana. We know about it. Everybody is talking about it. And KCR has managed to run his politics in terms of purely financial management of the resources that his party commands, rather than in some improvement in governance. Whatever he did was initially, and all the schemes he launched was initially. Subsequently, we can see a slack in terms of delivery on several schemes, which the BJP is highlighting. Now, given that scenario, a situation or an affair like this Raja Singh, it does upset a lot of things. And the BJP is also worried. This is not an action they would have desired. But at the same time, till those elections are held, the Prime Minister Modi has to run the government in India and will have to take care of all these fallouts. That's the simple reason, because the Nupur Sharma episode got blown out beyond anybody's imagination, and there was a lot of cleaning up had to be done, which is what the government wants to avoid. That is the reason why the Prime Minister has directed the BJP, individual BJP leaders, look, our politics must be handled in such a way that they do not create problems for us on the government side. So, that's the situation. But that doesn't mean the battle in Telangana is going to be any easy for KCR, because the Prime Minister himself will join that battle. You will see soon next year, after the first round of early elections happen in Karnataka, Tripura and other states, you will have, by the second half of 2023, you're going to see the scene shift to Telangana, as well as the other states, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, where the battle is going to get very, very tough for whoever is in power today.
Shekharji, I don't know how true this is, but some people have told me that his daughter goes on an expedition to jewelry stores in and around the city of Hyderabad. And amongst the jewelry shop networks, they say hide all the expensive jewelry. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, yes.
So I maybe not be the first one who has done this, because we have heard things like this about Sanjay Gandhi also. Doesn't give a very good taste leave a very good taste in the mouth. All these things will come and bite. KCR should have given some sort of a response to that, a rebuttal, and I don't think anything like that happened. And this happened a few years ago, sir. And she, in fact, lost, I think, MP election.
Yes.
So a lot of stuff going on. Just like everybody else, the second term people get a little more complacent, and perhaps that's what is working. I don't know. I really feel that this is a good state. It got a city that was enjoying the investment from the entire undivided state, and it's a surplus state, if I remember correctly. And for them to still not being able to do an adequate job is shocking.
Indeed, Shri Iyer ji, we have heard numerous stories of, extortions by ruling party functionaries, and then, regular payments, demands for payments. I mean, this has been the, very, I would say, very unfortunate state of affairs in Telangana. And the people are actually fed up on some score, because everybody knows today KCR's national ambitions are fueled by that kind of resources at command, which has come because of this kind of approach. Otherwise, they would not be commanding this kind of thing. And that's a very unfortunate part. But the people of Telangana, I think, Shri Iyer ji, they must make a choice, because this is going to be their future. Yes, the BJP may be looking for another state to establish its base. Well, let's forget for the BJP for the moment. I'm looking at the voters of Telangana. What do they expect? Because they did make some better choices during the parliament elections in 2029. Now the time has come for the assembly elections, which are going to take place first, followed by the parliamentary elections. Now, Telangana has got only 17 parliamentary seats. So it's very important that they use the assembly elections to send out a message. And it's more important for them to realize, if they want to put an end to this. But of course, the silver lining is there are a lot of problems in the first family. We know that. KCR has problems with his own relatives. We hear how feelers have gone to that Harish, who is his nephew. That's quite possible sometime next year you could see some developments within the TRS party, because there could be a lot of people looking for new opportunities and new avenues to do their politics, and the TRS could be facing an immense threat. I mean, I'm saying this with a lot of information, because I believe some of the TRS leaders who are unhappy with the domination of the first family are indeed looking for alternatives, are indeed touch with a lot of BJP leaders. This is the kind of information I get. So I'm not sure what is going to happen next year, but definitely, as you see the first half of elections, what happens in Karnataka and other states which are going in the first half. Of course, this year at the end you have the Himachal and the Gujarat elections, followed by Karnataka election, which is going to be important in the first half of 2023, and then Telangana will follow in November. I think a lot of developments should happen, and I will not be surprised if there is a crackdown in terms of money laundering, which we are witnessing in West Bengal, in Bihar, and Maharashtra and other states. Telangana is also, comes on the CBI enforcement directorate's radar. Well, I can see a question coming up there. Mr. Sachin Sharma has asked about what are the plans of Chandrababu Naidu. Well, we are hearing that Chandrababu Naidu is desperate to return to the National Democratic Alliance (NDA), and he has been in touch with some BJP leaders, because without the BJP support, he has had quite a bad time in Andhra Pradesh, particularly with Jagan Mohan Reddy's government breathing down his neck. And we do not know what decision the BJP will take, because the BJP interested in playing a bigger role in Andhra Pradesh than they have ever done before. So I think that's a thing that to be watched. But we know for sure that Chandrababu Naidu is very, very keen to again join hands with the BJP and return to the National Democratic Alliance. Of course, Jagan Mohan Reddy is also very careful in the way he's dealing with the central government and with the Prime Minister, because from what I understand is he has been playing a very careful, I would say, I mean, as he has taken a very careful position by avoiding the other opposition parties, and trying to meet the opposition that the BJP is presenting in Andhra Pradesh in his own style. And so, therefore, I can see that Chandrababu Naidu is could be caught in a situation where that Prime Minister Modi doesn't exactly have a very bad relationship with Jagan Mohan Reddy like he does with KCR. So, therefore, this is Andhra Pradesh is also going to be very interesting. But then Andhra Pradesh goes to polls only with the Lok Sabha elections in 2024. Shri Iyer ji.
Shekhar ji, last question for you, sir. What is your gut feeling about 2024? Do you think Modi will come back with the same kind of majority, or are people beginning to get disillusioned?
Well, I think it is too early to think that things are going to get bad for Modi. I do not see such a situation. But there are certain issues. Look at the way the economy is slowly picking up, and there are other things which, we are just emerging out of the COVID period. So there are a lot of positive signals, yet there are challenges. There are political challenges, because if the opposition finally can agree on a kind of an arrangement where if I mean, I doubt whether that can happen. If they can agree to put up one candidate of the opposition against one candidate of NDA in, say, at least in 500 Lok Sabha constituencies, well, that could make things difficult for the BJP. But that's not possible, because theoretically it looks like, plausible. But in practical terms, these parties cannot adjust, because KCR, as I mentioned, Telangana has got only 70 Lok Sabha seats. He will not be willing to concede any seat to the Congress or to any other friendly party which is part of that, let us say, opposition alliance. So therefore, it is not going to be easy. But at the same time, I think once the elections are completed in Gujarat and Himachal, one can see definitely a mood again in favor of the Prime Minister, because Prime Minister is fighting the battle as a single-handedly, and he's the fact that he is making corruption a big issue, a corruption that is now today, we can see that no party is being spared of that. We can see what is happening in Delhi. Arvind Kejriwal has been on the defensive and making some very, very ridiculous claims that the BJP is about to buy his MLAs, when he has got 67 out of the 70 MLAs in Delhi belonging to his party. BJP, no matter whatever it does, it cannot break the government in Delhi. Yet, he had an emergency assembly session, he had night sitting in the assembly premises to show that his MLAs are being approached by the BJP. This kind of panic one can see is happening because the corruption which we are seeing now, the action against corruption, this has disturbed a lot of leaders. Shri Iyer ji.
Thank you so much, Shekhar Iyer ji. I had a few more questions, but I'm afraid I'm having some power issues, up and down, up and down. I'd like to kind of stop this at a point where there was still proper connection. I have a few more questions, but viewers, we need your support. We would like you to like this program and also try to share this message that we are somebody who make you think after our program. We don't waste time. We are here to try and build your critical thinking capabilities. And I'm hoping that Shekhar Iyer ji, and we have an agreement of sorts, that he will try and spare his Tuesdays at 8 p.m. as a regular feature, unless he's traveling, of course. So that's something that I wanted to share with our viewers. Tuesdays, 8 p.m. will be Shekhar Iyer Nights. Next program onwards, time permitting, power permitting, we'll have question and answers. You have to do Ask Shekhar, and we will try and accommodate that. Shekhar ji, thank you so much, and thanks for handling this program single-handed while I was scrambling to try and see if I could log in by various sources, but I wasn't successful. The power came back luckily, so I could make it within your answer time. So thank you very much, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.